The safety and reliability of Canada's food supply is an issue that hits home for all of us during this pandemic. There's a lot of uncertainty now about what this coming summer will hold for the agricultural industry. Some farms normally rely on foreign workers. In fact, Canada brings in over 60,000 workers every year to help get the crop in and get it picked. If they can't, what happens? We have a farmer and an agri-food analyst tonight joining me to take your questions. Katie Keddy is from Charles Keddy Farms in Annapolis Valley, Nova Scotia. Her farms supply the Canadian market with sweet potatoes and strawberry plants. And in Elora, Ontario, Mike Von Massow is a food economist at the University of Guelph. Welcome to you both.
Glad to be here.
This first question comes from Sylvia tonight. In Florida, farmers are plowing under crops because they've lost the restaurant market and don't have other markets in place. Could that happen here? Katie, let me put that to you. As a farmer, could this happen to you?
So right now in Canada, our crops aren't actually in the ground yet. So what we're worried about right now are our overall yields being impacted because of a lack of manpower. Without the proper manpower, producers may have to make a choice of how much or what they're actually going to plant this season. So the impact will come later on this fall when we go to harvest. If less is planted, it means yet less yields overall this fall and less that could potentially fill these markets.
So a shortage, in other words, it could come up short.
The potential is there, yeah. Personally, we have experienced it already. We sell our jumbo sweet potatoes to schools and industries like that. And as soon as COVID came, then that market was done for us. So we're trying to find a new market for those personally.
And what about and Katie, just to follow up, what about the foreign workers? Tell me your circumstance there.
So right now we're waiting for them to come. Normally we would have had 10 arrive on the 25th of March, and we would have been expecting another 12 this week. Right now we have nobody. We did get word yesterday that we have potential for an early flight, April 14th, to get some into Nova Scotia. From their arrival time, they then have to isolate for 2 weeks. And in Nova Scotia, we're looking at doing that off farm. So we wouldn't have workers available until the very end of April or the 1st of May.
Okay. And if they don't come, how big a problem is that going to be?
If they don't come, I mean, it's huge. We are then relying on local labor, which has historically proven to be difficult. There's a reason, especially in the fruit and veg industry, that producers rely on these temporary foreign workers every year. It's because they're reliable and they are ready and willing to work 6 days a week.
Mike, how broad of a problem is this going to be for Canadian farms?
Well, I think it has the potential to affect farms from Nova Scotia to British Columbia. We have fruit and vegetable production all across this country, and having access to those foreign workers becomes important. We have heard that the government is committed, but as Katie just said, it's taking some time to get things going and get people here. So we'll likely see some delays, but hopefully people are coming and we will still get the crop in the ground.
All right, our next question comes from Brad. I live in an agricultural zone and many are out of work. Farmers are struggling without foreign workers. Is there a chance someone could come up with a system to connect unemployed locals with producers to work? Mike?
Well, I think those sorts of discussions are probably happening already. As Katie said, the reason we have temporary foreign workers is it's been tough to get Canadians to do some of the work that needs to be done. It's tough work. It's intensive during the spring and during the fall, so you work 6 days a week. But that said, we have a lot of people right now who are looking for work, so there may be an opportunity to coordinate that in the short term, particularly to get us through this spring pinch that we're in to get the crop in the ground.
Okay. This next question comes from a viewer on Twitter. How can Canadians overwhelmingly support our farmers without causing international trade issues? A big lesson I see from this pandemic is we need to be unified and supportive to Canadian suppliers because we have no control outside our borders. Katie, what do you think? Do farmers need more support?
As a farmer, where we farm in the Annapolis Valley, the support is overwhelming. We are in an agriculture community. Now, across Canada, there is some disconnect between rural and urban life. But I think what my main hope is at the end of this is that we as a nation realize just how important it is to buy local and buy Canadian first. So when you're standing in the grocery store and you're price shopping and you see that one piece of produce may cost $1 more, but it's grown in Canada, think about where that money is actually going, and it's going to support our own economy and our own food security.
Okay, Mike, what do you think?
I would tend to agree. I think the first thing I would say is we've done a profoundly good job of keeping food coming. We've seen some short-term shortages. That's been demand-based shortages, not supply-based shortages, and the Canadian farmers are already doing a good job. If we choose, we can vote with our pocketbooks. There is nothing in any trade agreement that says that you or I as a consumer have to buy anything from anywhere. What trade agreements do is provide access. Consumers are the ones who make choices. So, we are also an exporting country, so we count on consumers in other countries to buy some of our products, but there's no harm in buying Canadian at all, and there is no problem to do that relative to any international trade agreements. So, our family often looks for Canadian product, and there's absolutely no problem doing that.
All right, this next question comes from Amarina. She writes, what will happen in the next few weeks with respect to supply chains for grocery stores specifically? Mike?
Well, I think we've seen, as I said, some short-term demand-based shortages of product in the grocery shelves, but we are producing milk, we've got products in storage. Products are coming to the grocery store, we're catching up. We've seen demand go a little bit higher than we've expected. I expect that to come down. I also think we'll see some diversion from the restaurant market to the retail market because the restaurant market clearly is smaller now that those restaurants are closed. So we'll see some disruption, but supply chains will make adjustments. As far as getting into the spring production, what Katie said is right. As long as we get our labor in place for the farms that need additional labor, it sounds to me like fertilizer, seed, everything is already in place. We haven't seen any disruption in those supply chains. So as long as we get labor in place, we'll continue to be able to provide good, wholesome, affordable food that Canadians have come to count on.
Katie, is that the situation for you? It's just all about the labor at this point?
At this point, yes, that's our biggest obstacle right now. We haven't heard anything either, as Mike mentioned, in terms of inputs. So far, everything looks good on that end of things.
All right. Katie Keddy from the Charles Keddy Farms in Annapolis Valley, Nova Scotia. Mike Von Massow, food economist at the University of Guelph. Thank you both very much.
Thank you for having me.